Good morning, Nate.
Good morning, Gary. I came to collect hard copies of me and Jimmy's new contracts.
I got them right here.
These are a lot thinner than our last ones.
Now, Mr. Winter is all about deregulation. He says simplicity and freedom are the keys to success.
Yeah, except what I've heard from Nick Tatopoulos is our new boss doesn't like accountability and is very good at indebting people to him with favors.
I know, right? I couldn't believe how slippery he's been in the past. But Raymond told me that Winter has at least 3 of his Denham Law School classmates on retainer.
God help us if he manages to hire Raymond.
No, I won't let that happen. Besides, he knows better after everything that happened with the board last year.
Nearly losing your best friend because of them will do that.
Best friend might be a bit of a stretch. But Raymond always tells me that I'm an even better paralegal now that Mr. Osako is our investigator. Freed up so much of my time for actual legal work.
Speaking of which, how are the class action lawsuit and my pseudo-sister's legal personhood status case coming along?
Remember that bonus you got in the last paycheck?
You mean Winter's thinly disguised bribe? Yeah?
When he bought a controlling share, his lawyers negotiated a deal with the legal action team and settled out of court. Affected employees are getting their portions as bonuses in their paychecks.
Why am I not surprised that Winter continues to be as slick as his over-gelled hair? He even wants the board to owe him some favors. To quote a certain Mr. Kenobi, we must be cautious.
Ain't that the truth? But as for Jessica, well, I've been meeting with her a lot about her case.
Have you?
Yeah, and once again, things got better when Winter took over. I'll explain more when it's finalized. Attorney-client privileges, you know.
Uh-huh.
Changing topics, it sounds like you're talking a lot more Power Rangers now?
Yeah, between Henshin Men and the Power Trip, I'm talking about tokusatsu superheroes as much as I am kaiju these days.
I even saw some Ranger flicks on the MIFE schedule this season.
I guess I got bit by the bug after finding out I was working with a former Ranger. I hope Corone is doing better.
Oh, I love the Power Trip's kick-ass theme song.
Heck yeah! That's a Neil Stenson cover of Go-Go Power Rangers.
Did somebody say Go Ranger?
No, I said Go-Go.
Oh, that brings back so many memories.
Did you watch Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger growing up?
No, genius, I was a Go Ranger.
Say what?
Let me tell you all about it.
Oh boy. Strap in, Nate.
Most people, if they've heard of Go Ranger, know about those G-men and one dame who worked for the Japanese branch of Eagle.
Eagle?
The EGL, the Earth Guardian League.
Never heard of them.
Exactly. We were more secretive than Al Capone's tax problems.
Except that's how...
But the Japanese branch wasn't the only one with costume Pinkertons. Eagle had those super suits sent to a few other divisions, including mine. I was Ranger number 5 in my unit, and let me tell you, I loved being togged to the bricks in that thing. Back then, we didn't need transformation doohickeys or overgrown automatons to get the job done. We were 20th century Minutemen who flew our missions in the snazziest jet aeroplane you ever saw. But the best part was my green orang. Many a Black Cross Army man felt the sting of justice when I threw that, let me tell you.
Right.
Oh, there was that one time I visited the land of the rising sun on vacation and ended up being a decoy for the Japanese Mido Ranger. Let me tell you, Buster, Tommy Oliver would have nothing if not for me. I was the original, the real McCoy.
Okay. Do you still have the suit and boomerang?
Yes, but...
Then let's see them.
Well, you see, I don't have them with me. They're still locked away in a safe in my summer home back in Kenosha.
Well, I'm no lawyer, but if there's anything I've learned from the ones I know, it's that unless you have evidence to corroborate your story, it's just hearsay.
You're on, Mr. Marchand. I'll get my nephew Aston.
Aston Martin?
Of course. I'll get him on the horn and tell him to dangle them to the island. Then you'll be eating your words 3 meals a day for a week. Abyssinia.
And I thought Jimmy told tall tales. I think Raymond's read too many Daredevil comics. An ex-superhero lawyer?
We've dealt with weirder things.
True, but I'll believe it when I see it. Anyway, I gotta get to KIJU. I'm talking Rodan with Kaiju Kim.
Oh, can't wait to hear it.
See ya!
See ya!
Live from the KIJU studios in beautiful Ogasawara, this is the Monster Island Film Vault, episode 57, Rodan 1956, featuring Kaiju Kim. Hello, Kaiju lovers, and welcome to the Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast seeking entertainment and enlightenment through tokusatsu. I am your host, Monster Island's very own film curator, Nate Marchand. And yes, my intrepid producer, Jimmy from NASA. No episode of the Film Vault would be complete without you. There, you happy? Sure. Now go stroke your own eagle for a while. I'm done. Anyway, today we are getting back to my sub-series, Godzilla Redux, because by popular demand and because Godzilla is good for business, I decided to start covering the Godzilla franchise again, even though I already did it in my previous podcast life. But you know what? This is one of those rare instances where the remake is better than the original. There, I said it. And joining me for this momentous occasion is a returning guest. In fact, she was on just a few short months ago. You know her, you love her, YouTuber and Godzilla's chillest fangirl, Kaiju Kim. How's it going, Kim?
It's going great, Nathan. Thanks for having me back on the show.
It's an honor to have the, shall we say, Kaiju Queen on the show. We were chatting a little bit before going on the air about that, how that was at one point going to be your moniker.
Yeah, but I figured, just have it being my name would be more personal and feels more like me, because I don't really consider myself a queen, although I am kind of a queen.
I like the confidence. I will admit the writer in me really appreciates the alliteration with Kaiju Kim. That's very nice. But as we were also discussing, Kaiju Queen would be a great name for a band, particularly a band that does Kaiju-themed covers of Queen songs.
I am now holding auditions for a singer, a guitar player, bass player, drum player. All roles are available. Please follow me on Twitter. And no.
I don't know. Somebody out there in the ether is now going to start Kaiju Queen. I'm just, you may want to become their manager or something like that, just in case.
Will do.
But anyway, now I mentioned that this is part of a sub-series that I'm doing called Godzilla Redux, but I'm going to hold off on talking about that because first things first, how did you get to the island?
Oh, it's very simple. I just took a little cruise, a Monster Island cruise, got some souvenirs, got a Godzilla snow globe and some Mothra wings. You know how Disney World has, the Mickey Mouse ears? I got Mothra wings for this.
Oh, those are wonderful, actually. I didn't realize that they made some for adults. I thought those were usually for the kiddos.
Oh, I stole it from a kid.
How dare you?
I'm the queen.
This is true. Anyway. Traumatizing children aside. Oh, you've upset Jimmy.
Sorry, Jimmy.
Oh man, you don't want to mess with Jimmy too much. He was a Gamera kid. Just saying.
Oh yeah,
that's true. Mm-hmm. Him and his best friend Masao, they helped Gamera save the world from aliens. He reminds me of that every freaking day. Good for you, Jimmy. Good for you. I guess what did the rest of us do by the time we were 10?
Yeah, well,
did you
Jimmy's
hope?
Canceled.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first cancellation of the episode. Jimmy from NASA has officially been canceled.
Oh, snap. I know what I'm doing for my next Jimmy meme.
You're welcome.
Oh, shut up. It's an honor nowadays to be immortalized as a meme. Anyway, so as I was saying, that sounds fun. I had heard about that. That's a new development, actually, the Monster Island Cruise, because for many years, the only way that you could actually come to visit Ogasawara, because there's a big tourist city in Ogasawara, was to come by boat. So, obviously, they have expanded that to be a cruise. And what better thing to see on your cruise than kaiju, obviously.
Yeah, it was really fun. I got to see, Kong and Godzilla and Gamera and all that fun stuff. Yeah, and I saw Rodan, too.
I was going to say.
We're going to be talking about Rodan today, aren't we?
Yes, in his debut film from 1956. So some of you might be thinking, hey, that's not a Godzilla film. To which I say, so what? It's my dang show, and it's technically part of the shared Showa Godzilla universe. So be quiet.
Yeah, Rodan has appeared in multiple Godzilla films, but before that, he starred in his own film.
This is true. Also, David Khaled, in his book of essays about the quote-unquote Godzilla series, includes Rodan. So if you're going to argue with me, you better go argue with Mr. Khaled.
And your argument is invalid.
Obviously. Well, I'm covering Rodan. Your argument is invalid. There's a hype meme right there.
I'm on a roll.
Yes, let's keep that going. So yes, we'll be talking about Rodan 1956, which the reason I'm having you on is because you grew up with this movie. You want to tell everybody a little bit about your connections with this film?
Well, Rodan is actually the only non-Godzilla kaiju film that I really grew up with. I mean, there was Gorgo, but I'm more familiar with Rodan. I saw it a whole bunch of times as a kid, and I remember watching it a lot of times. But yeah, Rodan's always been part of my childhood. He's part of the Toho Big Five, and I've always been a fan of Rodan. He's a good boy.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just going to say this right up front. Rodan never looked as good as he did in this movie until 2019.
I can't argue with you there. I think I agree with that.
Yeah. So was this the first film that you ever saw Rodan in, or did you see Rodan in a Godzilla film before this?
Good question. I can't remember exactly when I saw this film. I feel like I saw Rodan first, and then I saw Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. I'm like, oh, hey, Rodan.
Okay. I had to ask because I didn't see Rodan until I was a little bit farther along in my kaiju fandom. In fact, I don't think I saw this film until I was in college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, mostly because it was just a little bit harder to come by, admittedly. And right now, if you want to see the movie, which I do recommend that you do, otherwise, why are you listening to this podcast unless you just love Kaiju Kim that much? At which point, welcome. Anyway, I think the only way to easily see this movie now is to watch it, at least outside of Japan, is to watch it on HBO Max, and it's only the dub version because apparently Criterion owns the distribution rights to it now, but they haven't released it on Blu-ray or anything.
No, not on Blu-ray. I do have the DVD. It's paired with War of the Gargantuas.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a fantastic edition.
Yeah. But are those out of print now?
Yeah, they're out of print. Like, if you go look for that DVD set on eBay, be prepared to pay a hefty penny.
Yeah, no thank you.
I know. But, this is the things that I have to deal with as the film curator here on the island. Be prepared for random British people. Okay, it just happens. But anyway, so that's fun. So, to get us started, Kim, would you like to give us a little plot synopsis for the film?
All right, sure. Let's see then. So basically, oh, here we go. The British accent's coming out. I don't know what happens. It happens when I get nervous.
It's okay. Maybe my old boss, the envoy for my bosses, he'll be listening and he'll be like, that British accent is completely wrong. And then he'll remind himself that he's actually half Scottish. Anyway, moving on.
Right, so the plot synopsis, according to IMDb, is a mining engineer investigates the death of his fellow co-workers and discovers prehistoric nymphs emerging from the mines. As he heads deeper into the mines, he makes a more horrifying discovery in the form of a prehistoric flying creature.
That basically sums it up right there. And yes, nymphs is actually the term for things like insect larvae.
Huh. I feel like I knew that, but then I forgot.
Yeah. Nymphs are beings from Greek mythology. They were nature spirits, and they would inhabit different things like forests and water in particular. And I think, if I remember correctly, since you can correct me if you want in your blog, Jimmy, since a lot of insects lay their eggs and such in water, that's why they call them nymphs.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard of nymphs in Greek mythology, and I imagine them being like these pretty little godlike women or something.
Yes. Unfortunately, unfortunately, nymph has been cannibalized a little bit to mean other things that are not entirely family friendly.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because the nymphs in this film are absolutely disgusting looking.
Yes. Shall we start our discussion with the Meganulon then?
Yeah, might as well. We're already there.
Yeah, we're already there. But yeah, the first monsters that appear in this. That's the interesting thing. The movie actually plays on some expectations a little bit at first. So we have the advertised monster. You can't get around it. It's like, bam, Rodan. Pterodactyl, Pteranodon, whatever name you want to use. Flying dinosaur, all right? And then you're watching the movie, and he doesn't show up until halfway in. And before that, we had the bug monsters.
Yeah, I like this movie. It starts off as a whodunit, like who's killing all the miners. And then it turns into a monster movie, like a regular monster movie with the Meganulon. And then finally, we get our main kaiju.
Now, what did you think of the Meganulon? We don't have any Meganulon on the island right now because they're weird and creepy and gross. Although occasionally some get brought on because Rodan still likes to eat them.
Oh yeah, that's his breakfast for the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's better. We prefer to do that than feed him dolphins. The environmentalists get mad at us.
Yeah, dolphins are cute. Feed the Meganulons because they're nasty. I hate insects in general, so I find these things to be incredibly disgusting. And if I saw one in my house, that house would then belong to that Meganulon, and I would have to move.
But Mothra.
All right, Mothra's kind of cute though,
except as a worm.
But yeah, that's
anyway,
true.
Not Mothra, Rodan.
Well, Rodan, here we go.
Rodan, yeah. But yeah, I don't blame you. It's his house now.
Bye.
Yeah. The noise is probably the most unnerving part about that, which is funny because I was reading Stuart Galbraith's book and his entry on this movie, and he thought that the noise that the Meganulon make was really annoying, and it sounded like as he put it, two balloons being rubbed together.
It does kind of sound like that, actually.
Which I think is part, but I think that's part of what makes it unnerving. Yeah. Just that sounded eerily similar to a Matongo laugh. Anyway. or actually, it also sounds like a Boltan laugh, which is also an insect. Connections. Anyway.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, but I did find some interesting things. I actually think that they're pretty well executed in this movie. I found out that it took 3 crew members to operate those things.
Oh, wow.
Because they needed
those things are huge.
Yeah, they needed 6 hands for the legs.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, but they are vicious. They're not little. They're big critters. They're vicious, big critters. Whew. It's kind of unnerving to think that if those are larvae, what do they turn into?
Ooh, well, if we're going by Godzilla versus Megaguirus, they turn into a giant friggin'...
That is true. Maybe we shouldn't be feeding any Meganula to Rodan, because that might make Mama Megaguirus upset.
Oh dear.
And we don't want...
that would not be a good time for anybody.
No, it would not. Yeah, Mama Gearus.
Mama Gearus, I love it.
I'm gonna have to save that one for later. Anyway, Mama Gearus. Anyway, so like you said, it starts off as a whodunit. So there are miners who are dying, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. They think it's actually someone going around murdering people. Mm-hmm. And then they find out it's a monster. So in a lot of ways, this is very much like an American monster movie from the 50s. This sounds like something that you would definitely see happening. It's actually, have you ever seen Them, the movie Them?
That's on my long list of things that I need to watch.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because that is slated to be covered on the podcast this season. And I will have John LeMay on to talk about that one, because he lives in the same state where the movie takes place.
Interesting.
Yes. But I saw a lot of people saying in my research that the portions of the movie with the Meganulon are very reminiscent of Them. And I can see that, with the giant ants and them running around causing trouble. And there's a lot of things that are very similar to in the beginning of Them to this one, with the ants killing people off screen and going after people out in the middle of nowhere and things like that. Because that's the other thing that's interesting about this movie. It's very similar to Godzilla 54 in a lot of ways. It was made by the same creative team. Mm-hmm. Your Honda, Tsuburaya, Ifukube. It even actually shared one of the same screenwriters, I found out.
Oh.
Yeah. Takeo Murata, who was one of the co-writers on Godzilla 54, but the story treatment was originally by Ken Kuronuma, not to be confused with the Simian leader and one of my bosses, because he be on the board. Sounds a lot like a friend of ours, which is a little disconcerting. I'm just saying. But the most noteworthy one of the three screenwriters who worked on this was Takeshi Kimura. Have you heard the name Takeshi Kimura before, Kim?
I have.
Yeah. He also went by the name Kaoru Mabuchi later on in his career. He was one of the two go-to screenwriters for Toho. The other one being Shinichi Sekizawa. And I think this was the first, as far as I know, I think this is at least the first toku or kaiju film he worked on. I don't think it was the first thing he ever wrote for Toho, but this is the first time he did one of these. And he was very different from Sekizawa. Sekizawa was a very happy-go-lucky guy and was all about living life to the fullest because, life is short, so enjoy yourself. That was basically his philosophy. Mm-hmm. Kimura was the polar opposite.
Oh no.
He was a very serious, dour man.
Oh, that's no fun.
Yeah. He famously had a conversation with Sekizawa one time, and he asked Sekizawa if he actually enjoyed writing all of these kaiju films, and he said, "Yeah, I think it's really fun." To which Kimura said, "Not for me."
Oh, he's like the Eeyore.
Yeah, he's very Eeyore. Very pessimistic, man. They were both war veterans, and the war had polar opposite effects on them. It made Kimura much more cynical, and it made Sekizawa appreciate life even more. So,
Sekizawa sounds like a good guy.
Oh, he sounds like he would have been a heck of a lot of fun. Lot of fun. But the other thing and you'll see it, you can see it in this film, is the other thing that was interesting about Kimura is that he, unlike Sekizawa was very apolitical. Mm-hmm. Kimura was a card-carrying member of the Japanese Communist Party.
Oh dear. Communism. That's an interesting hobby, to say the least.
Yeah, so this was written by a communist. And you can, if you pay enough attention to it, you can see shades of it in here. It's not hitting you over the head with anything, but you can see it. We're talking about takes place in a mining town, which is one of the things that makes it different than Godzilla 54, where that took place in Tokyo, in this big metropolitan area. This is out in the middle of nowhere in a mining town, which is already kind of interesting because Japan doesn't have a lot of its own energy resources, so they have to import most everything that they get. So the fact that there's a coal mining town is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have the miners, and so they're this literal underclass. All right. And if you see how these white collar people that are in this, the scientists, the government officials, the police, if you see how they get treated, like I said, it's pretty subtle, but they're not presented in the most pleasant of lights.
Yeah.
They don't nobody believes the scientists when, unlike in Godzilla 54. They immediately believe, oh yeah, Godzilla's real. Yeah, they say, oh, Rodan. They're like, no,
you're dumb.
You're silly, Or when the police hear about people dying, there's some reactions from where they seem a little bit amused by this. I'm like, really?
Not the reaction we're going for, sir.
Yeah, no, it's not very pleasant.
Yeah.
Early on, the doctors don't know what the heck is going on. And then what ends up happening, it's the working class people that take action and start to figure out what is going on.
That's usually how it goes down, isn't it?
Yep. Generally speaking, especially
films.
in a Kimura script. He was very fond of writing about outsiders who didn't fit into society and they would be rejected by authority. Yeah. And just so everybody knows, he continued to write for Toho all the way up until the early 70s. Unfortunately, he's not credited. And if you talk to Danny DeManna and I, our theory is that the fact that he didn't get credited is why he quit. But the last full script that he wrote for Toho was an early draft of what became Godzilla vs. Gigan.
Oh.
But he doesn't get credited, even though they used a lot of his stuff for the final script.
Rude.
Yeah. So we think that's why he quit. And then the last credit that he has to his name is he gets a story credit for a movie you just went on Kaiju Weekly to talk about.
Godzilla versus Megalon.
Yep. But it was really only because there was a monster named Megalon in his script. For Godzilla versus Gigan. Yeah. He also gets co-credited for the script to Godzilla vs. Hedorah, but it was changed so much in the final film that it made him mad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he came to a very tragic end, apparently.
Aw.
Yeah, in 1988. If you want to hear about that, Danny DeMann and I did a presentation at G-Fest a few years ago about him and Sekizawa. You can find that presentation, the video version of the presentation, I should say, on the podcast YouTube channel. So we'll move on from there. So, got all of that stuff going on. But then, you want to talk about escalation. So originally we thought it was a murder mystery. Nope, it's the ugly, gross bug monsters. Oh, wait. The ugly, gross bug monsters that were already horrible to deal with, they're a snack compared to the real threat. Or rather, they are a snack for the real threat. Because guess what happens when we see Rodan? Well, not for the was it the first time? Yeah, I think it was for the first time.
Yeah, it was the first time he comes out of the egg and he has the Meganula for breakfast.
Yep. That's how you establish the threat level of your antagonist. Take the thing that was already giving the protagonist a hard time and make it lunch.
By the way, can we just talk about real quick how cute baby Rodan is?
He is kind of adorable, isn't he?
He's so cute and chubby. Oh.
It was Toho's first giant egg too, because this is a full it was 5 years before Mothra.
Oh yeah, that's right.
First giant egg.
Yeah, so we get to see baby Rodan for a minute.
And apparently Rodans grow very quickly.
Yeah, like what's the time span between like Shigeru coming out of the mine and then regaining his memory? Like what?
Yeah, he got big really fast.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things you learn to go with it. It's the pseudoscience of kaiju films.
Yeah. There's like a throwaway line in the dub where like, he might have been fully grown when they hatched. But he doesn't look fully grown. He looks like a little chubby baby.
Yeah. Except I don't know very many babies who are going to... Actually, there probably are babies who would eat bugs.
Yeah. Babies will eat anything that they're not supposed to eat.
Yeah. So then we get to Rodan. And like I already hinted at, Rodan looks better in this than he will for a long time. Not until Godzilla King of the Monsters in 2019. And oh my gosh, I wish Toho had kept this design throughout the rest of the Showa era, because my gosh, he is magnificent.
Yeah, he looks fantastic. Yeah.
It's such a great looking suit. He looks fierce. He looks mean. He's a nice kind of like a brownish red tint, which really pops in this film because it's Toho's first kaiju film in color. It was originally intended to be black and white, but they made it color. And
yeah, I'm glad they did.
Yeah. Now it doesn't utilize color as extravagantly as, say, the Mysterians, which was the next year. But there are points where the color does really pop. The yellow helmets, or the kind of disturbing scene where they show the fighter pilot's helmet covered in blood after he had a confrontation with Rodan.
Even as a kid, I was like, ooh, that's kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
Just blood all over that helmet.
Again, you can probably thank Kimura for that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Because like I said, this is very much in tone, shall we say, with Godzilla 54 in a lot of ways. But it's also very much its own thing. It is not strictly just a retreading of Godzilla 54, which I think is very nice.
Yeah, I like the story in this one, and everything about this movie is pretty cool. They've got some unique elements. Like, I think that this is the only movie where we see two Rodans.
Yeah, there's two Rodans in this. He gets a mate, which leads to a very interesting ending. I know we're kind of jumping ahead, but we're talking about Rodan. So we get to the end after all the stuff that has happened, with Rodan inexplicably flying at supersonic speeds because kaiju. He even leaves an exhaust trail, which makes no sense because that would require that he was jet powered.
If you watch my review on this movie on my YouTube channel, I splice in that's the Surrender Dorothy scene from The Wizard of Oz during that scene, because that's what it reminded me of.
I am totally hype memeing that. Rodan says surrender Dorothy. But anyway, again, you just go with it. Otherwise, you have to go to some very weird places, like Roger Ebert's theory as to what powers Gamera.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, moving on. So
back to Rodan.
Yeah, all that destruction. Which, by the way, the destruction sequences in this are fantastic. With all of
the part that always sticks out to me is the part where the one of the army people are like holding onto the pole and the pole's like being blown away.
My gosh,
I love that part. I don't know why. That always stuck out to me.
Yeah. I actually found out that some of the things that they did in this, like the shingles getting pulled off on the building, that was actually inspired by a crewman's memories of Typhoon Moroto from 1934. So it had some real life inspiration there. But yes, so and that it was good because this got reused as stock footage for a while.
Oh yeah, it did.
Every time Rodan showed up again,
that might be why it stuck out to me.
Oh look, stock footage. That looked good. Use it again. Yeah. But then we get to another impressive special effect with the Mount. I don't know if it's Aso or Aso. I go back and forth.
I feel like it's pronounced Aso.
We'll go with Aso. That makes the most sense. So with the second Rodan, which in the Japanese version of the movie, because this did get re-edited a little bit for the dub version, And in the Japanese version, the second Rodan just shows up. I remember that there was an explanation in the dub version, because you and I actually, as just to do a point of comparison, we watched 2 different versions of the film when you came to visit today. I watched the Japanese, you watched the dub. So remind me, what was the explanation for the second Rodan?
Did they explain it? I don't know if they explain it. Really, they just say it has a mate, and that's the end of it.
Oh,
what
okay.
I remember.
It's been a while since I watched
but
the dub version.
I could be I mean, I just watched it, but like I said, my brain has been mush, and it's gonna be mush for the next week or so. But yeah, I just don't remember.
Yeah, you
saying.
Yeah, your little cruise and coming to visit the island is just part of a very long and full itinerary that you are doing right now.
Yeah, I've had a busy week, man. It's crazy.
Anyway, so you know what, Jimmy? If there is an explanation, put it in your blog. Anyway. But I want to talk. But I bring up the dub because this is kind of one of the rare instances where I do feel like the dub version actually does it better, because we get to the end, and both Rodan's air quotes die because retcons happen later.
Of course.
So there's a volcanic eruption.
It's kaiju. You can't just kill them.
No, you can't. Come on. Yeah. Although I've heard some people theorize that maybe that was an egg that was still in the mountain and it hatched, got out.
Maybe.
I
mean, there was a throwaway line like, "Oh, there's more eggs and they must be destroyed."
Well,
but
that is true.
They never show any other eggs.
That is true.
Yeah.
So Rodan egg theory confirmed. There you go. But so you got the 2 Rodans flying around, and they decide that the best way to deal with this is to cause a volcanic eruption, despite the fact that there were some people saying, like, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Because you might be destroying our livelihood because it's going to damage the environment.
There's a line on the dub. Think about the people, the women, the children, which immediately reminded me of a running joke that I have going on. For the children!
For the children! Yeah, like during your holiday stream. That was great. For the children! Yeah.
For the children!
Yeah. Now, admittedly, I do think if this was made now, they would have made a much bigger deal about the townsfolk saying, like, hey, if you destroy the environment, you're going to destroy our livelihoods. Because they basically
but in the dub they're basically like, yeah, no, don't worry about it, we got this, you'll be fine.
Yeah,
then just cut to the final scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're basically told, like, hey, we don't know what else to do with Rodan, and if he keeps running around, it's going to keep destroying things, and we can't have that. So it's one of those things. It's kind of like Godzilla 54 in that regard, where it's a little bit ambivalent about all these things, and it's presenting how difficult decisions have to be made about these things. And unfortunately, they decide that, well, we have to do this in order to stop Rodan. But anyway, so they cause a volcanic eruption. And by the way, I read in my research that the lava that we see in here, you know how Subaraya made the lava?
How'd he make the lava?
Boiling oatmeal.
Huh. How does one get lava from boiling oatmeal?
No, that's what he used to simulate it. He boiled oatmeal.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, like, wait, what? But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, so the volcano is erupting, the fumes are flying up, and well, it seems like if anybody talks about this, they seem to think it was the female Rodan that succumbed first, but she succumbs to the fumes, falls down into the lava, and then the male just throws himself down there.
My love, no, I shan't live without you.
It's very Shakespearean, isn't it?
Yes. Romeo and Juliet, the Rodan version.
In fact, our resident lawyer here on the island, Raymund Martin, when I told him that I would be watching Rodan and covering it on the show, he sent me a meme that said, "The 2 Rodans, still a better love story than Twilight."
Anything's a better love story than Twilight.
Well, most things. Anyway.
That's true.
Except for a certain 50 things. But
yeah.
Anyway. No, Jimmy, I will not dignify that book series with a mention. Anyway. So falls down there. And actually the narration really punctuates it. I did watch that scene again. It's been a while, like I said, since I've seen the dub version. And the problem that you run into with narration is that it can over-explain things. See Godzilla Raids again as an example. Banana oil.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Like for the first 10 or 15 minutes of the dub, like the narration just does not stop. And the movie doesn't shut up for a good while into the movie. It's like we're in this town and we're in a mining community, and I'm planning to marry this chick, and then let us watch what's going on. Show, don't tell. That's one of the main rules of filmmaking. Okay, just stop talking for just a second. Shigeru, nani o shiteru?
This is why most people don't like the theatrical version of Blade Runner.
But yeah, I agree with you when you say that the narration actually enhances the final scene, because it adds some humanity to the Rodans. You actually feel sorry for them when you see that they can't live without each other. It's actually really sweet.
Yeah, it's much more implicit in the Japanese version, but the narration makes it clear that the other Rodan simply could not live without his mate. So he threw himself into the lava. It's actually it seems like a very Japanese thing to do in a weird way.
Yeah.
Can't live without you.
Oh, and I read this fun fact somewhere that little part where one of the Rodans looks like he's trying to make one last effort to escape. That was actually a mistake. Subaraya was trying to reel in the suit or the pup or whatever, but he dropped it, but it looked good, so they kept it in.
Yep. I was going to bring that up. I read that in several places. One of the most touching moments in the movie was an accident. A literal accident. But they're like, you know what? We can use it. We can save it.
You can call it a happy accident.
Yeah. A happy accident.
A happy accident.
Yes. There's another hype meme. A happy accident. And
I'm just imagining the Exilian controller with Bob Ross fro. Happy accident. There's another hype meme for you.
That might end up being the same one. Oh my gosh. That is going to be the best Photoshop ever. Keep your finger off that button, Jimmy. Let me have my fun. Anyway, so yeah, so it's a wonderful little sequence, and the narration adds to it. So they couldn't live without each other, and it doesn't undermine the scene, because that's the thing that's unique about Japanese monster movies. They create sympathy for the monsters. In American films, they don't really do that, other than, I would say, King Kong. And King Kong might have been a little bit by accident. I'm not sure. Probably not. But most of the time, if you look at 50s monster movies, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, Them, there's no sympathy for the monsters. None at all. This one?
No, the movie literally, it just immediately ends as soon as the monster's dead. Oh, the monster's dead. Yay, the end.
Yeah, basically. You're talking about Beast?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. But in this one, there's pathos. In fact, there was so much pathos, I actually read that Honda's son, Ryuji, cried when he saw this part of the movie.
Aww.
Yeah. He said he felt sympathetic to the Rodans, and he was mad at humankind for killing them.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, since we're on the subject of Rodan, I did find some interesting facts about his name. It comes from Pteranodon. They combined two syllables from that. You might be thinking, but wait, Rodan, Pteranodon, how does that work? Well, let me tell you. In Japan, they call him Radon.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a little bit weird when you're hanging out with a bunch of Japanese guys and they're saying Radon and everybody else is saying Rodan. Although, did you know there's actually a couple of dubs that still call him Radon?
Yeah, and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2, they call him Radon. Radon.
Yeah. Radon. That sounds like a silly 90s catchphrase.
Radon.
Radon. Yeah. I'll make a meme with Rodan with a backwards
Rodan
hat.
During the metal horns.
Yeah.
Radon.
Radon. Yeah. Oh my God, we're in a rock star mood today, apparently. But anyway, yeah. So he's called Radon in Japanese. Well, that name ended up getting changed for a couple of reasons. They just switched the vowels, so it's Rodan, which sounds like a famous sculptor now. Rodan. I remember seeing a joke in Family Matters back in the day where they did that. Like somebody said, "Oh, it was like one of the kids was in art class." And it's like, "Oh, what was your inspiration for this piece?" "Oh, it was Rodan. It reminds me of Rodan." They're like, "Oh, yeah, really? I didn't think it looked like a giant Japanese flying monster or something like that." I was just like, I got that reference. But
I understood that reference.
Yeah, I understood that reference. But anyway. So they switched it because I've not seen anyone else talk about this. I remember reading years ago that part of the reason they changed it is apparently there is a brand of soap in Britain. Jimmy may have to confirm this for me. A brand of soap in Britain called Radon. But
I read about that somewhere.
Yeah, but it's also because there is a deadly gas called radon.
Yeah.
That's a lot like carbon monoxide. If it gets into your house, it's bad.
That's not a good time for anybody, no.
Yeah, so...
Did they think people were going to ingest movie into their, lungs or something?
Yes. Breathe in the radon.
I wouldn't put it past some people.
They get their brand new Blu-ray copy of this movie. They open it up and then they just huff it like Michael does his vinyl figures when he opens them. Yes, Jimmy, I know you approve of me teasing Michael. Who wouldn't approve of teasing Michael?
I approve of teasing Michael.
There you go, Michael. You can't do anything about it when Kim says it's okay.
For I am the queen.
Yeah, the Kaiju queen has spoken. She is the original Mama Gon. You gonna do anything about it? Yeah. What were we talking about again? Radon.
There we go. That's
yeah,
the one.
Radon. Yeah. Yeah. And I also read that that he was also, despite the fact that they ended up going with the Pteranodon, which apparently wasn't quite like how Rodan is designed. Oh, well. Everyone's changing their theories about dinosaurs nowadays, even with our competition, Jurassic Park, making more of them. They're just a dinosaur factory at this point. But anyway, he was inspired by the Archaeopteryx, which is a flying dinosaur. That was the initial inspiration. Although, speaking of inspirations, I got to tell you this, Kim. I think I mentioned this a little bit to you on your way here. Did you know that the script for Rodan was actually inspired by a UFO?
Yeah, you did mention that to me, and I looked it up.
Ooh!
And I was very interested.
Oh, what did you find out?
See. All right, so there's something called the Mantell UFO incident, in which on January 7th, 1948, I'm reading directly off Wikipedia.
Okay.
No cap. Okay, 25-year-old Captain Thomas F. Mantell, a Kentucky Air National Guard pilot, died in a crash of his P-51 Mustang fighter plane near Franklin, Kentucky, United States, after being sent in pursuit of an unidentified flying object. And this unidentified flying object ended up being something called a skyhook balloon.
Oh.
Which I looked up skyhook balloons, and they were developed by Otto C. Winson and General Mills.
the cereal company?
Yes, the cereal company. So when I saw that, I immediately thought maybe there could have been a cereal tie-in with this film. Like we could have gotten like Honey Nut Radons or Rodan Puffs. Or, you know what? Maybe Rodan could have been the mascot for Cocoa Puffs. Imagine that.
That would have been amazing. I'm cuckoo for Rodan Puffs.
Oh, someone Photoshop it.
What was that, Jimmy? What was that, Jimmy? Good idea. We'll send that to the board immediately. Sounds like a wonderful new product to have here on the island. Rodan Puffs. I am totally behind this. But that is actually amusing. I actually didn't see anything in my research about the balloon. That's a good find there. Now, I will tell you that the quote-unquote official story, because, the conspiracy theorists out there are not going to believe anything. Any of the official stories. But the official story is that he blacked out from oxygen deprivation at 25,000 feet.
That was in the thingy.
Yeah, his death is still listed as undetermined, which is a little odd.
Huh.
Yeah. But
that's weird.
Yeah, but that story actually inspired a lot of interest in flying saucers and UFOs in the 1950s, which, you just have to look at most 1950 science fiction films to see that. So... But that was actually not the first UFO sighting. The first UFO sighting was actually a year before that, June 24th, 1947, by a guy named Kenneth Arnold. That's all I really know. I don't know what the context was for that, but it's not terribly important to this film. But yes, Rodan, inspired by a UFO. So does that mean Rodan is a UFO? I guess technically he is, because he was a flying object.
They referred to him as a UFO before he's not. Yeah,
he was a flying object and was unidentified.
So there you go. Mm-hmm. Rodan was at one point a UFO.
There you go. But this is something I do want to make sure I mention. We talked about how this is a pretty dark film. Then we talked about the crazy grossness that is the Meganula. One of the things I really like about this is that it very much feels like a horror movie at the start of it. In the mind, it's very claustrophobic. Reminds me a lot of Alien. Have you seen Alien?
I've seen parts of it.
Okay.
I haven't seen it all the way through.
Yeah, but it's a very similar idea. It's a very enclosed space, very claustrophobic, and there's something in that space that's trying to catch our protagonist. Or perhaps in some ways it's also kind of like Jaws, a lot of suspense buildup. And, you even have that scene where one of the miners gets caught by the Meganula when he's half underwater, and then the Meganula grabs him, and he just screams and gets pulled under.
That's creepy. I love that scene. It's just like you're not expecting it, because up until that point, like I said, like the movie doesn't shut up. But then when it gets to that scene, it's like ridiculously quiet. It's like there's no music. It's just them going through the mines, and then all of a sudden it just goes oh crap, what's happening?
yes. And the other thing that's I think is noteworthy about this, and I was surprised to see it again this time around, was how international this actually gets for a moment, because we hear other people in other countries reacting to the appearance of Rodan.
Oh, yeah, that does happen.
Mm-hmm. So we see someone in Beijing. We see an American soldier in Okinawa, which Okinawa becomes a big deal in Godzilla films later.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. And just so I can toot my own horn, and a wonderful publication and project out there that a couple of our friends are doing, in the very, very first issue of Kaiju Ramen Magazine, I wrote an article about Okinawan culture and its connections to Godzilla.
Very nice.
Yes. So we see a soldier in the base at a U.S. military base, because at this point, Okinawa still belonged to the United States, and they had military bases there. They still have military bases there. And I like to look at this as being an expression of Honda's pacifism and humanism. he had a lot of interest, and if you see it in a lot of his films, he has an international flavor to everything that he does. If you watch Mysterians, it's about the world banding together and battling the Mysterians. Monster Zero is similar to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's basically talking about how Japan is part of a larger global community, which is interesting at this point in Japanese history, just over a decade after the war. In fact, when I covered this movie in my previous podcast life, the thing that we talked about was Japan joining the United Nations, which actually happened, I think, not too long after this movie came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I've already talked about that in my episode on the Mysterians. So if you want to know more about Japan joining the UN, go listen to that. But what's interesting is that all the countries that are shown in this montage are both friendly and unfriendly to Japan.
Huh.
Like China. China doesn't like Japan, but they get shown in this.
Does China like anybody?
They like people's money, but...
So no then.
Basically. But it's an interesting choice. And, it's, again, a very Honda thing to do because in Mysterians, he has the United States and the Soviet Union getting along. Who does that? Oh, but we talked about how, Rodan was eating the Meganula. You know what else he does? He eats cattle. And it's implied that he eats people.
Oh, yeah.
Those poor honeymooners.
Oh, those poor... Oh.
That
they
was
were having such a good time.
That was a haunting scene, too.
Yeah, that was really well done. That you just see the camera and the shoe left behind, and it's just, eerie.
Yeah.
Like,
I got to tell... that shoe, the talk about the shoe, because there's the next scene, it's the police are talking about it because people are trying to say, I bet it was just a double suicide. And they're like, no, this wasn't a suicide because why would they leave the camera and one shoe behind? And that sent me down a research rabbit hole. Jimmy can attest to this. I didn't come out of my little study room at the Sekizawa Library for a while because I had to find out about this, because the whole concept about people leaving their shoes behind just before committing suicide is a thing in Japanese media. You'll see it in anime. You even see it. It goes by really fast. It's really implicit, but you'll even see it in Shin Godzilla. Right at the beginning of the movie when they go on the boat where they think the scientist is, and then they find out that he had committed suicide.
Yeah.
Now, the essay I found started off by saying, hey, why does this happen? Well, let me give you a long crash course in Japanese history and culture and then tell you why they do that. I'm like, oh, good Lord. But basically, to summarize it,
give us the abridged version.
Yeah, the Japanese, and there's a lot of interesting detail to go with this, but basically, the Japanese remove their shoes as to not bring impurities into their homes. So if you go to a Japanese house, or if you watch a lot of Japanese media, people take their shoes off right before they get into the house. They don't take it in there.
I actually adopted that custom for my apartment.
Ah, there you go. It's done partly because of religious beliefs and a lot of other, and as a show of respect and all of that. This became connected to seppuku, which was ceremonial suicide as practiced by the samurai. And then the other reason why this is a thing is because for the Japanese, the barriers between the physical world and the spiritual world are a heck of a lot thinner compared to how most Westerners and Europeans think. That's why the partitions in Japanese homes are actually very thin, as opposed to the thick walls that you'll see in Westerners' homes. So all of that to say, because the barriers are smaller and they remove their shoes as to not bring in impurities, when samurai would commit seppuku, they would remove their shoes in order to avoid taking impurities with them into the afterlife.
Huh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. But since there was only one shoe, the police officer said, nope, this wasn't a suicide. Because it has to be both shoes.
Yeah.
So there you go. a little bit of cultural enlightenment that I'm sure Kyoei Toshi will write it and tell me I got it at least half wrong. That's how she works.
Yep. So I like how in the dub, like some points where, like, when the what's his name, Kashiwagi, the scientist, is explaining about the Meganula.
Akihiko Harada playing another scientist, but this time without an eye patch.
Yes. So Dr. Sarazera sans the eye patch, talking about the Meganulon, and then the movie just kind of gets bored with the explanations, and it literally fades to black as he's talking. So I just found that amusing. So the movie got bored. It's like, all right, that's enough scientific mumbo jumbo.
The movie is having flashbacks to boring biology professors in college. It's zoning out.
Like, all right, that's enough of that. It happens a couple of times too. Like every time there's a scientific explanation about the monsters, it just fades to black. And then cuts to the next
is
scene.
Not important. Also, we didn't write anything. Well, and since we're talking about Akihiko Harada, there's another face in this, another familiar face that we have to talk about, because this is one of his first movies, and that's Kenji Sahara, aka the man crush of David from Kaiju Apostle and Saved by the Belial. This, like I said, this was his very first movie. He had barely started acting at this point. This was his first big role, and he took it, oh my goodness, he took it very, very seriously. To say that he kind of took a method acting approach to this would be an understatement.
I don't think he smiled once in this entire film. Does he crack a smile? Like, I mean, there's not much to smile about in the movie, but still, like, yeah, he's a really good actor.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Even at this point.
Oh, and don't you mean Kenji Sawara, according to the American credits?
Oh my God.
And this movie was directed by Inoshiro Honda.
Oh, that was a very common mistake made by those things.
Why do they do it? They add letters that aren't there.
Oh, happens. There's a reason for it, but I forget what it is. It's a mistranslation. This is how seriously he took this role. He actually went and studied the causes of memory loss and would intentionally unfocus his eyes. This is stuff he would do between takes. He would unfocus his eyes and whip himself into a paranoid state.
Interesting.
Yeah. He got so into it one time, he actually kicked a table, bruised himself, and ripped his pants.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Honda was impressed.
I'm impressed.
But here's another fun one. He married his co-star.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yumi Shirakawa, his in-movie girlfriend in this, they got married.
Oh, that's so cute. Mm-hmm. They look cute together.
Yes, they do. Although she does spend most of the movie crying.
Yeah, I mentioned that. She it's just like she's kind of useless, but she does. To be fair, she is kind of the one who helps Shigeru regain his memory, but her usefulness ends after that.
Yeah. Now, how did you feel about the whole amnesia thing?
I think it added an interesting element to the movie and the story, and just like, oh, what happened? There's like, it creates like a little bit of mystery. Like you see him like in the rock slide, and then like almost the next scene later, or a scene or two later, then you see him again, and it's like, whoa, what happened to you? And he can't tell you because he can't freaking remember. So it's interesting, creates a little mystery.
Yeah, I remember early on when I had seen this, I wondered if the amnesia subplot was even necessary. Watching it again this time, understanding how Japanese storytelling and such works, considering that this is, it's very much an ensemble, and then halfway through, once Rodan shows up and Shigeru gets his memory back, none of those characters really do anything. They basically become bystanders.
Yeah.
Although in the original script, funny enough, there was only ever one Rodan, and Shigeru would have actually helped take Rodan out by dynamiting Mount Aso.
Interesting.
Yep. So there you go. So he would have been a little bit more involved at one point, but Yeah, but now I understand why it's in there, and it actually makes sense. It happens early enough in the movie that it doesn't feel out of place. Because when you're writing a script, you want to have your inciting incident about 20 minutes in, and it happens around the 20-minute mark. After Shigeru gets his nice hero moment with the minecart showing Short Round how to do it. It was a little Indiana Joneses, I have to admit. Yeah, but he's very much like a typical Honda protagonist, particularly at this point in his filmmaking career. He's not some big dang hero. He's very much an ordinary person who can be easily hurt.
I have something in my notes here about another line in the dub. I'm paraphrasing here, but because of his size, Rodan generates destruction with all the force of a great typhoon.
That has the Jimmy seal of approval.
I heard that line. I immediately thought of that song, and I'm just like, yes. Yes, I need to mention that.
Oh, that is totally going to be a hype meme. That is the perfect recipe for hype meme right there. Oh, I forgot to mention this when we were talking about the mining town. There were some real life incidents that actually contributed to this. The mining town that they're in, which, by the way, there is no coal mine on Mount Aso. They made that up. But there was the Mitsui Miike coal mine in Kyushu, and it was very instrumental in Japan's post-war growth. Well, just a few years before this, in 1952, that mine made headlines because 282,000 miners went on strike over wages.
Oh my.
Yeah, and then
that's a lot of
yes, and then in 1953, 25,000 protesters came to protest over layoffs at the mine. And then there's a scene in this movie that foreshadows it's something that happens later because there was a cave-in at this mine in 1963.
Oh my. Yikes.
Yep. And Mr. Kellett, I mentioned Mr. Kellett earlier, he actually argued that the Meganula, depending on how you want to say it, he thinks were representative of the sorts of things that were faced by miners. And he mentioned things like, what was it, the creeping floor phenomenon? I'm not sure what that is. You might have to look that up for me, Jimmy, for your blog. I don't know what that is. It sounds like the title of a horror movie, The Creeping Floor.
Oh, yeah, The Creeping Floor.
Yeah, it does. There's a film that you can work on because I know you're working on short films now. Make The Creeping Floor.
All right, I'll add that to my list of projects that I've started but haven't finished yet.
There you go, The Creeping Floor. And also for floods, which we do have a flood in this one too. Which I think is that makes sense because they're in a mine and they're wreaking havoc in the mine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, another thing that was in the original draft of the script, Rodan was going to get shot down by American fighters in Okinawa.
Boo.
There you go. Also, in the dub version, since you've been bringing up the dub version, have you ever watched any Star Trek?
I have.
Then you might have recognized one of the voices. George Takei.
Ah, yes, George Takei.
Sulu. Oh, my.
Oh, my.
Yeah, he one of his first ever acting gigs was dubbing this movie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that little fact.
Although most of like Shigeru was dubbed by Key Luke. And they also worked on the dub for Gigantus, the fire monster.
Gigantus, the fire monster.
Yeah, that movie.
I have my feelings about that.
Yeah,
but that's another topic for another
banana oil. Anyway. Oh man, I should have mentioned this. When we were talking about Rodan snacking on the Meganulon. You know whose idea that was?
Whose idea was that?
Akira Kurosawa.
Really?
That was his idea. He read the script and he said, hey, you really want to show Rodan's power? Have him eat the Meganulon.
Wow.
It makes sense because him and Honda were best friends. So.
Oh, that's fun.
Mm-hmm. We were talking a bit about some of the themes in this. I've read that both Honda and Tsuburaya were of the opinion that when man comes into conflict with nature, neither one of them win. You see that in this film, and you see that in a lot of their other movies.
Yeah, that is true.
Mm-hmm. And Callett, because he's a crazy academic like me who wants to bring stuff like this up, he wrote in his essay on this film that the film depicts modern civilization invading nature to fuel its expansion, sweeping aside old cultures. The monsters are a response to that, so they're nature's response to this expansion. And he actually said that there are some people that theorize that kaiju emerging from the ground, which Rodan does because he was in a mountain, could suggest a fear by the Japanese that their world is fragile.
Ooh, that's deep.
Yeah. Yeah. Some more fun facts for you. So we know Nakajima, Haruo Nakajima, our boy Haruo Nakajima, he played Rodan in this.
Mm-hmm.
And he almost died.
Oh, no.
When they were flying him around with wires, it's one of them snapped and he fell 3.5 feet.
Yikes.
You know, I'm just thinking like, and it's a 100-pound suit too, by the way. That Rodan suit weighed 100 pounds. Can you imagine just face planting with an extra 100 pounds on top of you?
Oh, ow. No, thank you.
Yeah.
That sounds very painful.
Yeah.
Did he lose consciousness?
Probably not. He actually only really injured himself once making a movie, and it was for Varan.
Oh.
All the rest of the time, all the crazy things he did, he never injured himself except on Varan. And that was because there's a scene in Varan where they set a bunch of rockets off right underneath him and he took them to the crotch.
Oh, no. Oh, ow.
That actually burned him.
I don't even have anything down there, and I'm feeling secondhand pain from that.
Sympathy pains. That's some real sympathy pains right there. And no, Jimmy, you will not make the dirty jokes. We are a family show. Anyway, moving on. This also has an Easter egg. Did you see the Easter egg? A little inside joke that Tsuburaya threw in. While the Rodans are destroying the city, there's a camera store, and it's called Subumaya.
Oh, I got it.
Instead of Tsuburaya, it's
I didn't
Subumaya.
notice that.
I didn't either. Now I want to go back and see it. And Honda was quoted.
I saw that it said camera.
Yeah, and Tsuburaya. Honda was quoted as saying that people thought that he thought that the miniatures were so good that people thought they were real.
Oh wow, I think that's what they were going for. So mission accomplished.
Yeah, that people thought they actually rented all that equipment from the JSDF.
Oh no.
Oh, we didn't talk about the score. What'd you think? Well, you watched the dub version, so most of Ifukube's score got taken out. But a lot of the music a lot of the music that Ifukube made comes back in a lot of later movies. He was fond of recycling the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the soundtrack.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Japanese version in a long time, but I like the soundtrack in that one better. It's like the Japanese version is better overall, except for the ending. But yeah. I missed the classic Ifukube scores in the dub. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a good, solid Ifukube score. You can't go wrong there. But you want to know what's a very telling sign about Ifukube playing favorites? One of the tracks that he made for this movie is called "Rodan Get 'Em."
Rodan Get 'Em. That's the actual title?
Yes.
I love it. I love everything about that.
Rodan, get 'em. That sounds like
Rodan, get 'em.
That sounds like what you do when you have Rodan as your guard dog. Rodan, get 'em.
The boy.
Yeah, and then the music starts playing.
I love it. And then his treats are the Meganula.
There you go. Good boy. Have a Meganula.
Good boy.
Good boy. Kim's sitting here thinking, he's like, I want a pet Rodan. Can I have a pet Rodan? Hey, honey, can I have a pet Rodan?
I'm gonna text my fiance. Honey, I want a pet Rodan. Get me a baby one. They're so cute.
Wedding present. You heard it here. You heard it here.
The Meganula, and then I don't want.
Yeah, you heard it here, Mr. Kaiju Kim's fiance. Pet Rodan. Hashtag Pet Rodan.
Hashtag Pet Rodan.
Pet Rodan for Kim. That's what it is. Oh, there you go. Well, that's most of the cool stuff that I have on this movie. Do you have anything else before we move on?
I was taking notes as I was watching the movie, and I just took a couple of notes on the some of the silly lines. Like one of them was like a misheard line that they were probably saying something along those like scramble something, but I heard scrambled dumplings. I was like, what? Scrambled dumplings? What?
We'll add that to the list of potential band names, because that sounds like a band name. Scrambled Dumplings. We are the Scrambled Dumplings.
But yeah, and then a silly line from, I think it was one of the generals, like after the Rodans are done, screwing up Tokyo or wherever they are, they say, the Rodans did this. And I'm just like, you think? Who else do you think done it? There's no other kaiju in this movie.
There's just two Rodans. Well, Meganulons. But Meganulons aren't doing that.
Well, yeah, but they're eating. They're part of a complete breakfast. They're already eaten.
Meganulons, a part of this complete breakfast. They're magically delicious. I think you're making Jimmy hungry.
Well, Jimmy, have some Meganulon. I don't know how good they taste. I mean, Rodan thinks they're delicious.
I don't think serving Meganulon would be a great idea, but you may not want to say crazy things like that because our new boss, Cameron Winter, might actually make it happen. Now I'm a little terrified.
Oh, okay.
Moving on.
My condolences.
Yeah, trust me, I've gotten a few sympathy cards because of it. But yeah. What was that again, Jimmy? Really? You have tried Meganulon before. What's it taste like? Oh, really? Come on. That's what everybody says. Ugh. Come on, Jimmy. Anyway. Any other funny lines? Unintentionally funny lines?
The one line that my parents always liked to make fun of is like when they first see the Meganulon in the house, it goes, Shigeru goes, help, there's a monster here. Just the way he says it is amusing, I suppose.
Yeah. Understatement much? That seems like a perfect note to end on, actually. Yeah, we got to wrap things up here a little bit, although this has been a great discussion. Thank you for coming on, Kim. But I do want to talk a little bit. Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about some listener feedback. I wanted to do some quick listener feedback here. The Monster Island Film Vault YouTube channel has been getting a little bit more attention the last few months, and I realized, you know what? I've got some comments on there that I should probably bring up. So I've got a handful here I want to bring up. So back on episode 48, which was The Tourist versus Gamera, Guardian of the Universe, which has become a weirdly popular episode suddenly a few months after it got posted. That was interesting. There is a guy here with the brilliant username of No Name Commenter, and he says, I'm thinking all the money on Space Godzilla and Destroya went to those mech cockpit and war room sets. They're pretty elaborate compared to anything in Guardian. The war room in Destroya is especially extravagant. The level of detail in there is like the surface of a Star Destroyer. He's bringing this up in reference to how I said that the effects in Gamera Guardian of the Universe look better than Space Godzilla and Destroya, and they were made on half the budget.
Oh, yeah.
So
that was a good movie.
Yeah. A Guardian?
Yeah.
Okay. Just
Space Godzilla was good too, but I think
I know you've got a soft spot for the for the Heisei era. And then on episode 43, which was on Godzilla 54, there is a user here by the name of Donna Brooks who wanted to give us a little bit of information on the war crimes tribunals, because we talked a bit about the war crimes tribunals that happened in Japan right after the war. And she writes, the war crimes tribunals were like the Nuremberg trials. They weren't about Japanese militarism, but about their cruelty in dealing with POWs and civilians. See the rape of Nanking, the sadistic medical experiments of Unit 731, etc. Here's a good vid to introduce the topic, and gives a link. So thank you very much, Miss Brooks, for sending me some more stuff to dive into and lose myself in researching these movies. But yeah, Unit 7...
As if he needs help.
Yeah, but Unit 731 is not something that I've really talked about on the show, but oh man, Unit 731 is horrifying, to say the least. It was a Japanese military unit during World War II that would conduct biological and chemical warfare experiments on American POWs.
Oh, dear.
Actually, not just American. It was just Allied POWs. It was horrifying. Just reading very brief factual descriptions of what they did to people, it will make your stomach turn. It's, oh, man.
Yikes.
Yeah. But that might be an interesting thing to explore at some point. I'm just not sure which film it would apply to. But we'll see what happens going forward. And then the big reason I wanted to bring these up is I have a comment here from Neil Reby, who was a guest on the show during the year of Gamera. He came on to talk about Zigra, because who doesn't like kaiju sharks and bikini girls, as Luke Giaconetti would say. Yes, Jimmy, I know you don't mind, but he wrote in reference to episode 51, which was on Gamera 2 Attack of Legion. I'm detecting a pattern. Had my friend Dallas Mora on for that one. He wrote, this was a great podcast. I learned a few things I did not know. For instance, I didn't know the suit actor for the Zerum alien played Legion and Godzilla in GMK, and I did not get the connection between the Legion flower and the giant flower in Ultra Q. Well, for what I remember about that episode, how could you not forget about that little fact? Because our resident mad scientist / chief of special projects, a Dr. Dante Dorov, who apparently recently discovered Twitter, much to the disturbance of everyone.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, came on and told us a little
Yikes.
bit about that. So there you go. Keep those YouTube comments a-coming, and I also, please send us some feedback emails. We love to get them. So, if you would like to have your feedback read on a future episode of the show, listen through the credits to get our email address. We would love to hear from you. Getting feedback from our listeners is one of the best things about being a podcaster, as I'm sure it is for you as well, Kim, as a YouTuber.
Indeed. Indeed it is.
But now, Kim, I'm sure you remember this from when we did it before. It's now time for one of my favorite segments, and you know what that is?
Is it the Patreon shout out?
Travis Alexander!
Michael Clifford as a kaiju Hamilton!
Danny Damana!
Eli Harris!
Chris Cook!
Bex from Redeemed Otaku!
Damon Noise!
The Cellcast!
Ted Williams!
Eric Anderson!
Tofu Fury! Do you not feel more powerful, Kim? Do you feel even more like a kaiju queen now?
I am the most ultimate kaiju queen in all the universe.
It's Morphin Time? No, wait, that's my other podcast. Which is a great segue to go into, well, first I should say that you too, listeners, can get perks like this by joining MIFV Max on Patreon for as little as $3 a month. But now that we've done that, I need to let everybody know what our next episodes are going to be, Kim. Guess what? Our new series, Amerikaiju, continues with Mighty Joe Young from 1949. Not the Disney remake, the original from 1949, the spiritual sequel to King Kong 33 that had both Ray Harryhausen and Willis O'Brien working on it. I just saw this movie for the first time last summer, and I was shocked how good it was when I shouldn't have been. But it's fantastic. If you get a chance to see it, I highly recommend it.
Awesome.
Yes. And I'm hoping, we'll see how things go. It's going to be a lot of guests, but I'm hoping to get my original tourist crew going all the way back to episode 2 of the Film Vault, Nick Hayden, Timothy Deal, and Joe and Joy Metter to come back for that one, because I feel like, hey, they helped me launch the show with King Kong 33. I have to show them the spiritual sequel. Plus, it's just...
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, plus it's just a dang good movie. But speaking of Bex from Redeemed Otaku, one of our patrons, she's coming back next month in the next entry of Godzilla Redux, because we're going to be talking Mothra, 1961. I've already had her on to talk some Mothra before, so I figured, you know what? It's only appropriate to bring her back.
Indeed.
Yes. Hey, I'm sure you've seen Mothra 1961, right?
I have indeed.
Yeah. You like that one?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Do you like that or Rodan more?
I mean, I guess for nostalgia reasons, I'll say Rodan. Because I didn't grow up with the Mothra. I didn't even know Mothra had her own movie until, like, adulthood. I'm like, oh, Mothra has her own movie. Cool.
Yeah, I was aware of it, but it was hard to find and see. And I was very happy when I finally did get to see it.
Yeah, I managed to snag, is that Mill Creek?
Yes.
With the Blu-ray? Yeah.
Yes.
I have that in my collection, so very happy about that.
Oh, yes, as you should be. And now we come to a very important segment of the show, the shameless self-promotion. And I've already hinted at it, so I'll mention it here. I have 2 other podcasts now because I'm insane. So I have Henshin Men, which I co-host with Travis Alexander. That's about Henshin heroes. As we say in our tagline, a podcast that celebrates Japanese superheroes and their high-flying and high-kicking adventures. And I just recently launched another one with Michael Canceled Hamilton. Called The Power Trip, a journey through the Power Rangers franchise. So I highly recommend you seek those out and listen to them. They are relevant to your interests. And now I yield the floor to the Kaiju Queen.
As you should. All right. So I am known as Kaiju Kim on YouTube. I have a show called Chill with Kaiju Kim that streams live on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where I chill and talk with other members of the Kaiju community. And I will also be launching a new channel pretty soon where I'll be uploading my short film projects that I'll be making throughout this year and beyond. Some of the projects will be kaiju related, most of it will not be. But if you want to know more about that, you can follow me on Twitter at Kaiju Kim to stay up to date, and that is all.
Really, Jimmy? No, I'm sorry. You don't have a face for YouTube. I'm sorry, Kim. He seems to think that everybody needs to interview him now.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen, Jimmy. Sorry.
Oh, he's not too happy about that, but he'll get over it, you know?
I'm sure he will.
Yeah, he's a big boy. He'll get over it. He survived the war in space miraculously, so he can get over that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you once again for stopping by, Kim. We need to do this again sometime. I may have to start looking at my schedule for upcoming episodes, see if I can work you back in, maybe if I can find the right Godzilla film. I know you're really fond of the Heisei series, so maybe once I get to the Heisei movies, I'll bring you back,
Oh, that'd be fun. I would love to talk about Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. That's my favorite.
Yeah. I've thought about bringing you on for I've thought about bringing you on for Destroya, because I know you have very strong opinions about Destroya.
Yes, Destroya. You were one of the people who saw that video of mine before I set it to private.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's good. I can still talk about it, though.
Okay. Sorry. Well, anyway, in light of all of that, Jimmy, cue credits. Thank you for listening to the Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast produced and hosted by Nate Marchand. If you want to join the discussion and be heard on the show, we'd love to hear from you. So email us at feedback@monsterislandfilmvault.com. Our website is monsterislandfilmvault.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Monster Island Film Vault, and on Twitter, where our handle is @TheMonsterIsla1. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok. Follow Jimmy from NASA on Twitter at NASAJimmy, and our many other colorful characters using the links in the show notes. The podcast logo was created by Tyler Souls from TylerDrawsComics.com. Our theme song is Wanderer on the Offensive, live edit by B33J, Sarax, Juan Madrano, and Nonsensical Lexus, which is a remix of Counterattack Battle with the Colossus and The Opened Way Battle with the Colossus by Kootani from the video game Shadow of the Colossus. All film and audio clips belong to their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended or implied. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and or Podchaser to spread the word about the show. You can also support us by joining MIFV Max on Patreon. The Monster Island Film Vault is a Moonlighting Ninjas media production. Sayonara!